For the 6th day of 1-week online international faculty development program and skill development program on emerging innovations and insights in pharmaceutical sciences, jointly organized by Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Kakinada, and VV Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gudlavalleru, Krishna District, Andhra Pradesh. Respected eminent speaker of the today's session, my good friend, Mr. Gnanananda Varma Buddharaju, Global Leading Head, Pfizer Limited, London, United Kingdom, will deliver a lecture in the area of pharmaceutical analysis with a talk on pharmaceutical labeling and overview. Pharmaceutical labeling is one of the upcoming topics in the recent arena of pharmaceutical sciences. A drug label refers to all the printed information included with any over-the-counter, that is OTC medicine or prescription drugs or any dietary supplements. They were strictly regulated by the various professional bodies like Food and Drug Administration and etc. And it provides the plenty of useful information to healthcare investors used to evaluate a company's products. Sophisticated label solutions can play an important role in supporting product and patient safety. Initially, the label serves to clearly and reliably mark the pharmaceutical product by providing information on the product, its administration, batch number, expiry date, and etc. Today's speaker is having a very sound knowledge and vast experience and expertise in the field of the regulatory aspects. And we are very fortunate to have Sri Gnanananda Varma Buddharaju for this particular online FDP program. Now I invite my colleague, Ms. T. Prashanti, Associate Professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis and coordinator for the today's webinar series, to introduce today's speaker to the participants. Over to Prashanti Garu.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to one and all. Myself, T. Prashanti, Associate Professor from Pharmaceutical Analysis Department. I feel immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Gnanananda Varma B., who is currently working as Global Labeling Lead, Pfizer Limited, United Kingdom. Sir did Bachelor of Pharmacy from JSS College of Pharmacy, Ooty, Tamil Nadu, and completed Master's of Pharmacy from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Sir played different roles by his expertise in every aspect, like Senior Manager, Drug Regulatory Affairs Quality Assurance in Novartis Pharma Division, Program Manager in Novartis Consumer Health Division, Clinical Quality Assurance Scientist in Trident Life Sciences Limited, Hyderabad. Sir got OTC1 R&D Team Award in recognition for key contribution to MHRA CCDS development project, and also received OTC R&D Achievement Team Award for playing a major role in successful planning and execution of reference safety information documentation. Sir received Above and Beyond Award for organizing Synergies 2013 team building event. Sir acquired Appreciation Award for Lescol Referral Project and Co-DO1 MRP Renewal Project in 2009 at Novartis. Sir is excellent in training both the operation and quality assurance associates on the quality systems and relevant SOPs. Sir played a key role in establishment of quality assurance department at Trident Life Sciences. Sir shows his commitment in successful completion of quality audits of APLRC and Trident Life Sciences. Sir also played an active role in obtaining National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories accreditation for Clinical Investigation Unit of Aurobindo Pharma Limited Research Center and Trident Life Sciences. With this brief introduction, now I cordially invite today's speaker, Mr. Gnanananda Varma B., to start the session. Sir, please, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
It is audible, Varma.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lakshman, and thank you, Prasanthi, for such a lovely introduction. And it's my pleasure to join this session and show, deliver some minor lecture on the global labeling department or pharmaceutical labeling per se, giving you an overview to all the attendees. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, it is visible. You can proceed, Verma.
Okay. And when I started thinking about this session, initially I was thinking whether this topic, what will be the extent of information that I have to give, and what is the level of information that I can share with everyone, because I'm working for a pharmaceutical company, and and I am not supposed to reveal any information from the company. So I was very careful in choosing the topics. So, and also I thought of giving some overview about the importance of labeling, which is a new arena that I would say for all the pharmaceutical, professionals, and also people who are interested in joining the regulatory affairs. I think as a pharmacy graduate, it gives it gives a lot of satisfaction working as a global labeling manager and supporting the the regulatory affairs in getting the label approved, as well as the maintenance of the label. So to begin with, today we'll be discussing about what is labeling, and we'll also discuss about the importance of labeling in different departments within the pharmaceutical industry. Maybe it in the terms of regulatory affairs, as well as from the perspective of a developer of a drug, and also from the pharmacovigilance standpoint, we'll try to understand the importance of the labeling over there. And not only that, we'll also discuss different topics included within the labeling, that is the content of the drug labeling. And I also thought of sharing some of the important skill sets that are required for being a good labeling manager. And I also want to share some of the activities that I do on a regular basis. So to begin with, we all know the label, or what we see on a product is it's an information necessary for safe and effective use, which is intended for both healthcare professionals, which is doctors, as well as the pharmacist, and also the patients. So when I say labeling document, it has different definition in the life cycle of a product, starting from the drug development to the patient. So there are different stages of the label where the labeling document get evolves. So the first, when I say internal labeling documents, what I have mentioned on this slide is something which is not publicly accessible, and these two documents are within the company for often any innovator company. So the first one is the investigational brochure. This is something used within the clinical trials when the drug is developed. And the company core data sheet is an internal document within any pharmaceutical company which is innovating, or which is launching some new products. So this is the familiar term over there. And this is a company position of that particular pharmaceutical product. So that's the reason I have mentioned this as an internal labeling document. Now, when I say external labeling document, these are the documents which are publicly available on the health authority websites, as well as in the as well as in the package of the product. So when I say it's USPI, United States Prescribing Information, this is the document that is publicly available on any FDA website with regards to a particular product. And summary of product characteristics is the same document, but this is the term that is used in Europe. And in Canada, they call it as Canadian Product Monograph. And in Japan, JPI, and Australia. So, and the documents which are intended for patients are called, these are the documents which are used by the patients, like patient package insert and medication guide. These are the terms that are used in USA. And a similar equivalent document is patient information leaflet, which is used in Europe. And the components of the drug product or packaging, what you see over here is these are the outer and inner cartons. Those are called as artworks as well in regulatory terms. So this is the overall, when I say labeling, these are the documents that I'm going to talk about in detail today. Now, what is when I say hierarchy of the labeling documents? I talked about company code data sheet earlier, which is the company position of the product. From this company code data sheet, the USPI, which is US labeling document, and EU SMPC, which is the term used in Europe. So the code data sheet is the source document from where all these labels, that are available in USA and Europe are developed. So the company maintains this company code data sheet for a product. From the USPI, all this package, patient package inserts and medication guides are derived. So the fundamental difference between the USPI and the patient package insert is that, the terminologies and the language used is more in a layman terminology. So because the patients who are may not be educated in a medical field or pharmaceutical field, it may be difficult to understand certain terms. So what they do is that they convert the USPI into more patient-friendly language. And the medication guide that I have mentioned over here is not necessary for all the products, but there are some products where there is a special emphasis on the safe usage of the product, and there are also situations where the health authorities will think that the patient needs more information for the effective use of the product. So this is the overall hierarchy of the labeling documents. The company code data sheet is the company position. From this, the USPI and the EU SMPC in Europe. So from these, all these documents are derived. And we also work on instructions for use, which is reference documents for the patients for a medical device per se. So these are the different terms of what we use regularly in a labeling department. Now, I thought of explaining the importance of a label during the drug development of a product. So, if you consider overall drug development, there are two important phases. One is the clinical development and post-authorization phase. Can I avoid this coming intermittently? Okay, I got it. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So when we talk about drug development, there are two different phases. One is the clinical development, and the other one is the post-authorization phase. Uh, so this, whatever the picture that you're seeing, I want to explain how the final label that you see, on a product, the journey of a label from the preclinical stage to the final what you see on the market. So so to begin with, any drug development, once the preclinical studies are completed, any innovator company files an IND, that is the term used in US, and IMPD is the term that they use in Europe. So they apply for that. Once they receive the health authority approval, there are different phases of a clinical trials, that is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And after the phase 3, the health authority approves your product. And finally, phase 4 is the post-authorization, where the product is on the market. So in terms of labeling perspective, if you look at what is the beginning at the starting point for any label is the investigator's brochure. This is the document that is used by investigator to, for conducting any clinical trial. This is the reference document that, a principal investigator of a clinical trial uses, which has all the information about the clinical trial protocol and the adverse reactions that they observed in an animal study, and all the information that is necessary for conducting the clinical trial. Now, as the investigator brochure, progresses, the phase one to phase 3, it may take around 8 years or 6 years, depending upon the product that you are developing. So what happens is this investigational brochure will be updated as there is more information available, from the patient's outcomes. Like when they started using the drug in phase 1, there will be some adverse reactions or any information that is necessary for the conducting of the trial. So all this will be updated into the investigational brochure. And the investigational brochure, they keep submitting this to the health authority annually. So this is a document is basically used by the clinical investigator. Now, when I talk about target product profile, this is a tool used by the regulators to negotiate what is the the label that we want to see at the end of the phase 3, or what is the label that you want to see in phase 4. So this is a tool that is used to negotiate the label indications, whatever the indications that the product you want to market on. And also this is also a document wherein you have all the references and the clinical studies available to support your indication. So the developmental CDS is nothing but, as I already mentioned, the company core data sheet. Because the product is yet to be launched, they term it as an developmental core data sheet, or DCDS. Now, the final, once the product development reaches by the end of phase 3, they also start drafting the prescribing information, which is submitted to the health authorities. And once it enters the market, we also develop the patient information leaflets, the artworks, and promotional materials. So this particular slide explains the complete cycle of a label. What you see as an end product over here undergoes multiple steps wherein it gets evolved into a final label that you see on any product. So from the term of from the drug development perspective, this is how the journey of a label starts from the preclinical stage to the market. I would like to stop here if there are any questions on this slide. Hello. Are there any questions?
Valma, you can continue. At the end, they will ask after completion of your presentation.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So
a little bit louder. A little bit louder. Huh?
Okay. Okay. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So from the what we have looked at from the previous slide is from the drug development perspective, the importance of a label. Now, from the regulatory affairs standpoint, the global labeling manager or the global labeling lead, as a global labeling lead, we are the people who are more interested about the label from the regulatory affairs standpoint. So for any regulatory affairs professional, the CTD triangle is an very important, this is the basic, anyone who want to come into regulatory affairs profession, has to have an understanding about this common technical documentation triangle, where you have 5 modules in total, and you have module 1, and module 2 is a summary of all the quality, non-clinical and clinical documentation. And module 3 is a quality aspects of it, like manufacturing process, as well as analytical methods, and all these are compiled under module 3. And module 4 is a non-clinical studies reports, and module 5 is a clinical study report. So, and the label that we are talking about, whether it is USPI in US or it is EU SMPC in Europe, so they will be placed in module 1. So this is the only document in the dossier that is available publicly. So the informations about the quality, the reports, the clinical overview, and all these things may not be disclosed in a public domain, but the label is the document which is available publicly. And this is the face of the, I would say this is the face of the product, which which everyone can access and understand about the product. This is the only external document that is available. Now, we have, in the previous slides, I have talked about the importance of label from the drug development perspective, how it evolves. And we also discussed about the importance from the regulatory standpoint, what is the importance of a label. And now, the importance of label for a pharmacovigilance department is that, again, as I already mentioned about the clinical development and post-authorization, the pharmacovigilance starts right from the preclinical, the clinical trials division, especially to the post-authorization when the product is on the market. So in order to perform any pharmacovigilance activities like receiving the safety reports and evaluating each safety report that we are receiving, the basis of any pharmacovigilance activity is this label that we are talking about. During the development phase, it can be the CDS or the investigational brochure is the document which the pharmacovigilance experts use in processing the safety reports that they receive. They are called, the safety reports that I'm talking about is the individual case safety reports that are generated during the phase 1, 2, and 3 of the clinical development. And in order to, the SUSARs and CSARs, the SUSAR is a suspected unexpected serious adverse reaction, and a suspected expected serious adverse reaction. The difference between these two is that, when you are developing a product, you already know the pharmacological class of the product, and you do expect some adverse reactions. So those will already be mentioned in the investigational brochure that I have mentioned earlier. And if there are something new that are coming up, so those are also considered, and they're compiled in the DSUR. This is the Development Safety Update Report. Now, if you look at once the product is approved, now it is called as PEBRAR or PSUR. The PSUR is the old term. The latest term is PEBRAR, which is the periodic benefit risk evaluation report. So from the pharmacovigilance standpoint, the label forms the basis where in pharmacovigilance, professional looks at the label and sees looks at what has been reported, and he will finalize whether this is a new unexpected serious adverse reaction or if it is an expected, and they'll make they'll compile in the safety database. When I'm talking about risk management plan, this is another requirement of any product under development that you need to submit to health authorities. And the risk management plan is a term used in Europe, and in US it's called as REMS, risk evaluation and mitigation strategies. They are one and the same. So when the product is under development, this document has the list of activities that a pharmaceutical company is doing to ensure that the patient safety is taken care. The label is one of the risk mitigation activities. So by having a label for a product, what you are doing is that you are informing the patient or the subjects about what are the adverse reactions that this can cause and what are the precautions that you should take. So this is the importance of a label from a pharmacovigilance standpoint, where this is the base document on which all the activities of the pharmacovigilance are performed. Now, what is the importance of a label from ad promo? From once the product is launched, we advertise the product, and also we have to promote the product with the healthcare professionals. So now the core data sheet is the base document, as I said, the company develops, and which is converted into USPI and EU SMPC. We call it as local because this is a global document of a company, and once it goes into US or Europe, it's with the input from the health agency, we call it as a local document. And these documents are the base documents for developing the promotional materials or packaging materials. So this is the importance of any label from the ad promo perspective. These are the list of claims that you want to develop and advertisements. So for all this, the core data sheet or the labeling document is an important document. Okay, now we have talked about the importance of a label from the clinical development perspective, and we also talked about from the regulatory standpoint why it is so important, and what are the contents of a label, like from the efficacy and the safety and the CMC. We have segregated them into 3 different categories. When we talk about efficacy of a product, the therapeutic indication, and the pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, and special populations and clinical studies. These are the sections of a label which talk about efficacy of a product. Now, when it comes to safety, these are the topics in a label where we cover the safety aspects of a label, whether it is posology and administration, contraindication, warnings and precautions, and driving and using machines, ADRs, interactions, pregnancy, breastfeeding and fertility, overdose, preclinical safety. So these are the section in a label which covers the safety aspects of how safe are the products and what are the precautions that you have to take in using the product. So the CMC from the global standpoint are a little bit less relevant because the product that is launched in different countries may be varying, the formulations and the excipients, they may be varying a little bit, not completely, but there may be differences. But when, as a global labeling manager, when you sit in a global role, your main focus of the product will be basically on the efficacy and safety. And the CMC aspects of it, so each country, regulatory affairs office will be focusing on the CMC. From the global standpoint, we'll be focusing on efficacy and safety of the product. Yeah, these are, as I mentioned, different sections. The section, this is the section indications. This section contains information regarding the treatment, whether it should be used for prevention or the diagnostic indication. So, and I have mentioned, extract from the guidance for each section. So, as a labeling manager, you should be aware of the guidance documents that are available in US, and you should also know the guidances in Europe. So the guidances, one of the simple point that I've taken over here is to reflect that we have guidance for each section of a label. And it is not the comprehensive guidance, but if you want to understand more about this, we do have SMPC guidelines, as well as in US, we have PLR and PLLR guidances for each section. So you have to refer them. So the purpose of mentioning guidance over here is to let the attendees know that for each section that you're developing or drafting for a product has a specific guidance, which is the expectations that we have to meet. And in a similar way, the dosage and administration section, the expectation is that the dosage should be clearly specified for each method, route of administration, and for each indication as appropriate. So, so this is the guidance that is available for dosage and administration. So, with regards to contraindications, these are the conditions that do not permit for reasons of safety in using the substance or concomitant use of other substance. The examples for this is that there will be certain drugs that you should not take while using a product. So because of the drug-drug interactions. So this contraindications is a section which covers them. Not only that, but this section is mainly focused on where there is, you should not use at any cost that you are not supposed to use the particular drug in a certain specific population or anything like that. So this section covers that. Other medicines, so guidance says that other medicines or classes of medicines which must not be used concomitantly or consecutively should be stated here. So not only this, there is extensive guidance on this section, how this should be represented. So you can refer to the SMPC guideline. I have shared the links at the end of the presentation, and you can go to that and check about each presentation or each guidance. So again, the contraindication section, this talks about what are the specific population that should not use this product. One of the reasons of mentioning the specific populations in the contraindication section is that because during the clinical development that we discussed earlier, it may not be possible to use a specific patient population, and we do not have information about that. In those situations, so what we do is that we say that do not use this because we do not have enough information about the specific population group, or the mode of administration for that matter, or concomitant use of other substances. As I have already said, there are certain drugs which interfere with the efficacy or safety of the product that you're using. So all these things are captured as a contraindication where the safety of the patient is at risk. Yeah, again, this is the repetition of what I have already said. The special population where we are not supposed to use this drug. Now, the next important section of a label is special warnings and precaution. Now, there will be some instances where even though you can use the product, but you have to use it with certain caution, or you have to take some precautions. So that in those aspects are covered in this particular section. The previous section, contraindications, is a section where the information what you have is that you should not use at any cost. But this section has information about special warnings and precautions where you can use the drug, but you need to take certain precautions, and also what the guidance says for this particular section is when you have, for example, 3 to 4 warnings for the particular product. So the order of the warnings that you place in a label should be the most important warnings should be started with, and the less severe warnings will be at the bottom. So the intention of this particular guidance is that the patient, when he looks at the patient or the healthcare professional, when they look at it, the important warning should not be somewhere at the bottom where there is a probability of missing that warning. So that is the reason for this guidance when they say, the order of the safety information is very important. Now, again, there are certain serious adverse reactions and relative contraindication, or the insufficient or no clinical experience in a subgroup. As I already mentioned, during the clinical development, it may not be possible to recruit certain patients, and we say that, but theoretically we know that this may not be a problem. So what you do is that you mention clearly that it is clinically, for the elderly patients, it should not be used or something like that. Yeah, there are also certain instances where the product that you're using may interfere with the clinical or laboratory monitoring tests. So those information need to be specified under special warnings and precautions. And excipient warning. For example, if you are using a tablet where you have lactose as in one of the excipient, so the patients, there are some patients who are intolerant, they have this lactose intolerance or the galactose intolerance due to hereditary reasons. So we need to specify that this product has lactose in our product, and the people who are intolerant to lactose or galactose, they need to be careful. So such warnings are also covered under special warnings and precaution. Now, in Europe, there is a list of mandatory statements that you need to follow, which is covered under EU excipient guidelines. So as a labeling manager, when there are new guidances that are being developed, so what I do is that I check what is the excipients that we have in this product, and are there any mandatory labeling wording that I need to include in my label. So I do keep a tab on all those developments that are coming up in the public domain, which are developed by health authorities, basically. The drug interaction section is again, specifically focused on the drug-drug interactions or the drug-food interactions, because, for example, the grapefruit is an inhibitor, CYP, the hepatic enzyme CYP inhibitor. So what happens is there will be an impact on the efficacy and safety of the product if you take grapefruit juice. So those aspects need to be covered specifically under drug interactions. If the interaction is so severe that it had completely it is unsafe to use the product, or the efficacy of the product is lost because of the drug-drug interaction, you have to mention it as a contraindication. So whatever the drug interactions that you have mentioned under contraindication are explained, the reason and why we are saying it is a contraindication explained in this drug interactions section. And also the details on interaction studies that are performed, or any interference of these drugs with the diagnostic tests. All the information is provided under this. Yeah, this is another important section in a label where the patient has to be informed about certain aspects during pregnancy, or if it is they are feeding a baby, nursing mothers, or the product has an impact on the fertility. So these aspects are covered under this section, pregnancy, lactation, and fertility. For example, the fertility of a male or female rats was unaffected by when administered at a dose as high as 600 mg per kg. So what happens during the clinical development is that it may not be possible to administer the drug or recruit a pregnant patient. So the data that they rely on basically is from the animal studies in the initial phases of the clinical development. But as the product is developed and we have more information once the product is approved and used by the patient, so the animal studies may be replaced by the clinical data that we have. So the reason why we have mentioned about the female rat study, animal studies over here, is that the difficulty or the ethical aspects of using the product in a pregnant, pregnant woman. So that's the reason they more rely initially on the animal studies. Later on, as the product gets matured after, in the market, so we'll have more information coming up from the pharmacovigilance department, or there may be signals that are developed, and we get more confidence. Then the animal studies are replaced with the clinical data in the particular section. Yeah, and again, we're talking about the impact on labor and delivery, as well as what are the teratogenic effects of the product or to the mother, as well as to the babies. So all these aspects are covered under this section, pregnancy, lactation, and fertility. Now, the undesirable effects is a very, very important section, because as I mentioned earlier, for a pharmacovigilance standpoint, this section is very important, because when the safety reports are, they come into the safety database, the pharmacovigilance colleagues, they evaluate it. So the first thing that they look is that whether we have listed the adverse reaction in our undesirable effects section. So from the pharmacovigilance standpoint, this is a very, very important section, which they quite often, in order to process a safety report, they use this section, which includes, for example, the gastrointestinal bleeding, ulceration, perforation, which can be fatal, has been reported with all NSAIDs. So very important adverse reactions are, specifically mentioned, so that the prescriber of the product is aware of what he's prescribing and what are the side effects of it. And also from the patient perspective, who uses the patient leaflet, he should know that these are the adverse reactions that can be caused because of using this product. Now, anticipated ADRs. So we, for every drug class, we do anticipate certain ADRs. Even those can be mentioned. Basically, what we cover in this section is primarily when you see any undesirable effects section, is that information, adverse drug reaction covered in the clinical trials. So those will be tabulated, because in a drug development process, in clinical trials, everything is under control, because the patient comes to the investigational site, is under control, and we know what the patient is taking. So everything. So then we can prove that yes, whatever drug that we are giving is causing the adverse event. Unless it is done in a control system, it is called as adverse event. But when it is done in a control system, and there is also a process called as re-challenge and de-challenge, and then it is considered as adverse drug reaction. So my intention of explaining this is that in this particular section, there are two different sections, subsections, where the tabular column includes the adverse reactions, where it is proven that the drug is causing this particular adverse event. So those things are covered in the table. And all the post-authorization, once the product is on the market, and there is a lot of spontaneous reporting that happens, and those are covered separately, because we are not completely sure that whether the product is the reason for this particular adverse event, and we segregate them. So that way, we are making it clear to the healthcare professional there are certain adverse events which are definitely caused by the product, and also there are some adverse events which are caused, which may not be because of the drug. So that is the purpose of segregating them into two different sections. When we talk about adverse events, we also talk about there is a particular. I'll come to that. We'll talk about MEDRA, but we have to present it in a tabular format, pre-marketing, which is the developmental stage, and post-marketing. We also can include within the table with the asterisks, which shows that this is not something we have during the clinical trials, but once the product is marketed, we are receiving this adverse event. So that can be also another way of representing an adverse, undesirable effects of a drug. There is an MEDRA, which is Medical Dictionary for Regulatory Activities. So the reason for this is standardizing the adverse reactions that we want to represent in a label, because the same adverse event that can be termed in different ways. For example, some may use pyrexia and some may use fever. So in order to standardize those terms, they have developed this MEDRA, which is a medical dictionary for regulatory activities. And they propose the system organ class under which each adverse event should be placed. So this, if you check online, you will find some MEDRA dictionaries, and you can get more information of how you have to actually represent each adverse effect of an product. So this is a tabular format that you're seeing on the screen, which is representation of the system organ class, and every adverse event will be placed under respective SOC or system organ class, so that this standardizes the representation of adverse events or reactions that we're talking about. Now, another aspect of we can use also other information which can be included below the table, as I already said, are from the post-marketing phase. As some products of CDS may reflect multiple indications. So we can also segregate, because every product, there will be sometimes 2 to 3 indications of the product. Like we can use the product in 3 different situations. So we can also segregate them based upon the indication that we're using. So when the product is administered for this particular indication, we have observed these adverse events, because sometimes the doses of each indication may be different. So what happens is the adverse events that are coming out of it will also vary. So in order to make it a distinction between that, we also segregate the adverse events according to indications, or we have observed in a certain specific patient population. So we can segregate them, and we can represent them in a tabular form in an USPI or SMPC. Another important aspect of it is frequency of ADRs, where if the adverse reaction or the adverse event, it is very common, like it is greater than 1% out of every 10, then we mention it as a very common adverse event. And likewise, there are different frequencies, and this represents 1 in 100 and 1 in 1,000 people are getting this adverse reaction. So the frequency of adverse reaction, mentioning that is also very important. Now, the pharmacodynamic property, this is the mechanism of action of a particular product is clearly mentioned over here. But once the product is developed, we normally, we do not touch this particular section in a regular maintenance activities. But this section gives an idea about how the drug is acting for a particular indication or the set of indications. Yeah, again, pharmacokinetics section. This section covers the absorption, distribution, and metabolism and excretion. So this gives the summary of the pharmacokinetic studies of a particular drug that we are, using that are performed. So the ADME is covers all the aspects of a drug. Yeah, the preclinical safety data. This, covers the toxicity studies like acute toxicity, mutagenicity, and genotoxicity, carcinogenicity. All the animal studies data are covered under this section. Now, this section has a prominence because there are some instances where the clinical development cannot include the patient. So they rely on the animal studies data, wherein we have to give the product, to the particular group. So this gives some idea to the prescriber that what is the animal data that they have, whether this can be used safely or not. If the health prescriber want to look at it, so this is the section which covers this information, all the information about the toxicity in animals. Now, yeah, I mean, this slide represents what is the activity that I do on a regular basis. So, what are the triggers when the triggers can be from the health authorities? Just like every company has a safety database wherein all the safety reports that they are getting are compiled and evaluated, the health authorities may also come across certain articles, or they also have a database wherein they the patient or the healthcare professionals, they report to those databases, and the health authority comes and asks us, we have received this report, can you evaluate and update your label if necessary? So what we do is that once we receive that particular information or the query from health authorities, like it can be from FDA or it can be from EMA for a centralized product. So what we do is that we check our internal safety database and we evaluate the importance of what health authority is asking us to do. And once we discuss within the company and we go back and say the health authority that we have checked our safety database, but we didn't find anything like that. Can you provide more information? Or what I want to convey is that there will be a back and forth between the company and the health authority regarding a particular aspect that the health authority want to include in the label. So that will be the function, regular function that I do as a global labeling lead, is that I receive the queries from health authorities through the regulatory strategists, and my job is to check whether what the health authority is asking is available in our core data sheet, and if we have it, if we don't have it, then I'll request the pharmacovigilance department to check whether the safety database. So all the activities that are necessary will be performed over here. And not only that, on a regular basis, every innovator company or any generic company, they submit this PEBRAR. Earlier it is to be PSCR. Now the more common term is PEBRAR. And from that, there may be a new signals that may be coming up, or a new adverse reaction that the company will know, and they will inform the health authority. So those once the health authority evaluate those signals, they will say, okay, now you have to update your label with this new adverse event or reaction. Now, so my role will be to ensuring that new ADR or event is available in the label. Again, the signal detection is something the pharmacovigilance department does. This is an internal trigger. What I'm mentioning over here is the health authority driven changes. This signal detection is the pharmacovigilance department who asks us, we have to evaluate, there is a new, we have found this new article, or there are some safety reports that we received, and we have to update our label. So the signal detection is the internal within the company. Substantial addition to local labels. As I said, we consider the CDS, which is a company position, as a global document. And the local labels are, for example, the SMPC in Spain. They have updated it. So what we do is that once that they update the local labels, we get a trigger at the global level, and we have to evaluate whether we have to update the CDS or not. Or we also sometimes, once the signal is detected, we update the CDS, and we also ensure that local labels are updated accordingly. So this is the overall activity of a labeling manager. And I thought of informing this will be useful for any budding pharmacists who want to have a career in regulatory affairs. This will be a good opportunity, because what I observed is that still the global labeling per se, we have upper edge than the remaining degrees. So still predominantly the labeling managers are coming up from the pharmacy background. I thought this particular explanation of the label, its importance, and its importance in pharmacovigilance will give you and inspire you to taking up global labeling lead roles in the future. Yeah, this diagram is something I thought it will be useful because on a regular basis I do interact with clinical leads as well as the medical affairs leads. I also interact with pharmacovigilance SME, which is subject matter expert, preclinical and clinical pharmacology expert. There are two departments we should also work with is the commercial and the legal, because the commercial is the team which works on the product marketing per se. They will come up with requests like, we want to have this new claim for our product. Can we justify that? So once they request that, we start the project and evaluate what is the supporting data that we have to market a new claim or something like that. And legal is also important because from the legal standpoint, whatever we are mentioning in the label should be legally authorized. We cannot use a product, the language and the wording that we are using should not be misleading. So the legal SMEs are also available as a part of the team. So overall, as a global labeling lead, I interact with them and see that the product label that we are sending out or published on the Health Authority website is according to standards. Now, when I evaluated what are the skill sets that are required to be to be a good labeling manager, your understanding about worldwide regulations, guidances on labeling. This is the links that I have provided. You can check these links. And in Europe, we have a specific guideline called as SMPC guideline. And whatever I have mentioned under different sections before are coming up from this SMPC guideline. I have just taken an extract of it and pasted over there. So for the complete guidance on each section, this will give you insights into how each section of a label should be there. And the project management, this is an important skill when you interact with different stakeholders, how you, whenever there is a trigger from Health Authority, you have to plan and execute it, and you have to see that your label is approved within the company that you're working. And for that, project management skills will be a very good skill set that will be required. And communication skills. Of course, this is because you'll be interacting with global colleagues. So this is very important skill set that you need to develop as you graduate. And knowledge of pharmacovigilance and clinical development. This is something is an add-on, like if you understand about pharmacovigilance, how the clinical development happens, so you can participate in development projects. What I discussed before is the regular maintenance activities, but this is a regular maintenance. But if you want to involve yourself in a development project where a new product is launched, so sound knowledge about clinical development and clinical trials will be an added advantage. With that, I think I will end my session. I'm sorry, I didn't even check the time. Okay, I think I'm on dot, I'm on time. Thank you. Any questions? You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your neat and detailed explanation about pharma labeling, and you also made us aware of some important documents in labeling, sir. Thank you so very much, sir. So I request participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. I request the participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Sir, there is one question from one participant.
Mhm.
Sir, how did we identify the adverse drug reactions through labeling?
Yes, as I said, we have a specific section called as undesirable effects. So, which is adverse reaction section where you can find all the adverse reactions of a particular drug.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, I will hand over the session to convener and principal Dr. A. Lakshman Rao Garu to present a valedictory note. Sir? Hello? 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 Sir, Kuntal Das, sir? Sir? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. There is a participant. Sir, Kuntal, sir? Kuntal Das, sir? You raised your hand. Please unmute yourself, sir, and ask the question.
Prashanti, I think he's accidentally pressed that button. Go to next one, next person.
Questions? Hello, sir? Nyanandam, sir?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sir, there is another question, sir.
Mhm.
How to identify the expiry date of lipsticks?
Expiry date of what?
Lipsticks, sir. Lipsticks. Cosmetic product, lipstick.
This is tricky because I don't work on cosmetic products. But yes, I think that is clearly visible on the panel of it. I'm sorry, first of all, I should say, I don't know. I mean, I don't work on cosmetic products. I work on drug products.
So any other participants, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So I'll hand over the session to convener and principal Dr. A. Lakshman Rao Garu to present a valedictory note.
Thank you, Dr. Verma, for your excellent presentation. On behalf of VV Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to our honorable today's speaker, Mr. Gnananandana Buddharaju, for his intellectual talk. And my foremost thanks to JNTUK University authorities for giving permission to conduct online international faculty development program and a skill development program jointly organized with JNTUK along with the VV Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gudlavalleru. I especially thank Honorable Vice Chancellor of JNTUK Kakinada, Professor M. Ramalingaraju Garu, Rector Dr. G.V.R. Prasad Raju Garu, OSD Dr. V. Ravindranath Garu, Registrar Dr. C. Satyanarayan Garu, Director IST Dr. K. Purnanandam Garu, Professor in Charge School of Pharmaceutical Sciences and Technologies Dr. G. Padmajarani Garu for their kind support for organizing the online FDP and SDP program in association with JNTUK Kakinada. The program is planned for 6 days, and my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers from day 1 to day 6. The day 1 speaker is Dr. Mallikarjunrao Pichika for his keen delivery of speech on applications of structure-based drug design. Day 2 speaker, Dr. Koteshwar Nalamolu for his detailed explanatory note on ischemic stroke novel therapeutic targets. Day 3 speaker, Dr. Spandana Rajendra Kopalli, who had given a systemized talk on ginseng, the miracle nutrient powerhouse, its role in fertility. Day 4 speaker, Dr. Hari Saripalli, who had given talk on biotechnology in drug discovery and clinical applications. Day 5 speaker, Dr. Kamal Dua, who delivered his speech on targeting inflammatory diseases using nano drug delivery. My heartfelt acknowledgements to members of our management, Dr. V. Nageshwar Rao Garu, Chairman, Sri M. Srinivasa Rao Garu, Co-Chairman, Sri V. Satyanarayana Rao Garu, Secretary and Correspondent, and Sri V. Ramakrishna Garu, Co-Secretary and Correspondent of A&M and VVRSR Educational Society and VV Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gudlavalleru, for their generous and continuous support in making the event grand success. I especially thank principals of various pharmacy colleges for their support and registrations made by their staff and students for this online FDP program during the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Let me thank Dr. P. Bhargavabhushan Rao, Head Department of Pharmaceutics, Dr. Sheikh Aminabi, Head Department of Pharmacology, Dr. D. Sharmila, Head Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis, Dr. P. Ravisha, Head Department of Pharmacognosy, Mr. K. Srikant Kumar, Head Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, coordinators for this 1 week international faculty development program and skill development program for their sincere involvement and efforts. I also thank Ms. T. Prashanti, Associate Professor, and Ms. S. Aidati, Assistant Professor, for being an helping hand to organize this program in a very smooth and grand manner. I thank all my teaching and non-teaching staff members of VV Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gudlavalleru, for their involvement in the successful completion. I am very happy to say that the total participants for this FDP program is and SDP program is more than 2,500. Among them, 1298 are from faculty community, which includes directors, principals, professors, associate professors, assistant professors, and lecturers also, and 1144 from research scholars and student community. I thank each and every participants for their keen interest for upgrading their knowledge. Finally, I thank all the people who are involved directly or indirectly for making 1 week online international faculty development program and skill development program a grand success. We value your presence with us and look forward to your continued support in future endeavors too. Stay home, stay healthy. Thank you, one and all. Have a nice day. And over to Prashanti Garu for a few announcements.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. A special note to the participants. The feedback link was provided in YouTube as well as Zoom chat box. Please fill the feedback to get e-certificate. It will be active up to tomorrow morning 8 o'clock. And if you have any queries regarding the certificate, please mail whatever the showed in the slide, vvipsseminars@gmail.com. And the certificates will be received within 1 week. Thank you one and all to make this grand event, to make this event for a grand success. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you one and all.
Thank you all.
Sir?